Hi. So, Anna, can you give us an introduction about who you are, where you're from, and also where you're dancing?
I'm Anna. I'm from Mexico. I'm 18 years old, and I'm currently just an independent dancer. I used to be an apprentice with Ballet de Monterrey, but some things happened, but I'm currently an independent dancer. So I started dancing when I was 4 years old, and then I believe 9 was when I started taking it more professionally or more seriously, as one might say. I joined Escuela de Ballet de Monterrey, which is in Mexico, and I did my 8 years of career in here and graduated at 17. And in that same August, I joined Ballet de Monterrey, and I did 3 seasons with them. And well, I'm currently 18.
How has your relationship with dance shifted from the time you were that young professional dancer to now?
So I remember when I was younger, I used to struggle a lot with stressing in class. So I would stress a lot and I would not enjoy it at all. Like, I obviously did it because I loved it, but I remember being, since the first exercise, warming up, and I was like, I have to point my feet, I have to do this, I have to do that, and I was stressing so much. And then throughout the years, as I was growing older, I realized that I shouldn't be stressing so much. Like, obviously, you have to learn to control your stress and everything. So I remember in my last years in school, I started shifting my mentality and started enjoying class more and everything like that. So in my professional years, it became more like, oh, I'm doing class, everything's fine. I'm just enjoying it and actually dancing through the class and doing it for my body and for myself, not for like a grade or something else like that.
Would you say that I've struggled in the past, or maybe even now, perfectionist type of mindset?
Oh yeah, I remember that has been a huge struggle for me. I always remember, like, when I was younger, I was always told, like, oh, you don't have this certain body type of a ballerina, like, and I remember I was struggling a lot because I wanted to reach that, but it's obviously impossible, and you have to learn to accept that, and you have to learn that although ballet strives for perfectionism, it's something no one will get. And I think that's also, like, it's something you have to learn to live with, but see it as a positive thing as well. Like, you can always get better, and there's no limit as to, like, I already did this, so I cannot get better. No, there's always something you can improve on.
Yeah, I often say, for Ashley, but really for anybody, is the goal to drive progress and not perfection. Even though we feel there's one perfect thing, and that's how we often are taught. There is no perfect way to do things. When we strive for that, it only lands in burnout. It becomes something that used to be joyful, something that truly actually harmful. So it's incredibly important to have that mindset shift that you're referring to, which is coming to terms with the fact that so much of our art is imperfect. And instead of striving for perfection, how can we continue to move forward while having goals that are actually and realistic? And one of the goals can be progress.
Focusing more on how you've progressed throughout the years rather than striving to that perfection that will always be unreachable. And you just have to learn to live with that, although it can take some time, but it's what is going to give you more progress, like, in the long term.
Absolutely.
I feel like I learned how my body started, like, actually working with food and doing extra training in my last years as a student, because I was maturing more and I was realizing, like, oh, I actually need to learn how to nourish my body and not follow other, like, dancers' diets or something like that. Everyone's body is different, and we cannot do the same thing as another person since it's not the same body. And so I remember when, like, it was my last years that I started learning, like, okay, I have to learn how my body works and learn how I can feel it so it can work better in performance, in class, in exams, in auditions, and everything like that. And obviously there's ups and downs, and there's going to be certain days where we all struggle, and it's never going to be like a straight line of like work in progress. There's always going to be like ups and downs and ups and downs, and that's what like makes it a journey. So I feel like in my professional years, well, I learn more like, okay, I have to also give my body some time to rest, and I have to learn how to manage that stress. If I cannot live with that, I have to learn how to nourish, allow myself, and not feel bad about eating that.
It can be very easy for dancers to try and strive for perfectionism in how they're eating. And we see this a lot with clean eating lifestyle, wanting to choose those more clean foods. All that it really lands us in disordered eating, where we're viewed as good and bad, and therefore reflecting upon ourselves as being good or bad for eating, including foods that nourish our body, right? Energizing, those foods that are supporting muscle recovery, but also knowing that we are not inherently bad if we're eating foods that might not be what society thinks nourishing. Stability in our food choices is so important for not just our physical health, but also just for our mental and emotional well-being. Because if we are restricting ourselves, if we're saying that we can only eat these clean, we're going to miss out on some really delicious food.
As dancers, we cannot only have our dancer life. We must also have like our, as you might say, normal people life. And you cannot like miss out on certain like social events. You cannot be stressing about like, oh, what am I gonna eat? You have to allow yourself to enjoy life outside dance, because you have to create that balance. You cannot focus and just like dance.
A lot of dancers do hyper focus on their thing and progressing their technique. What are some activities that you separate from dance?
So, for example, I feel like dance is addictive, because we also like it's addictive, and because we want to strive for that perfectionism, we always want to get better, and it's something you have to like, for example, divide. Like, okay, I'm just gonna train from 8 in the morning to 12 like p.m. I don't know. And you have to like have all of your focus there during those hours, and then when you come out of training, you have to have other hobbies in which you can just disconnect from dance, or have something where you can like how do you say like take everything out. Obviously you can go and like take all of your stress through dance, but sometimes dance creates stress as well. So you have to have another hobby where you can go and take it all out. What helps me if I need to dance more, I like going to other like schools or other classes outside my environment and take, for example, contemporary class or jazz or another type of class that isn't ballet, so I can let my body move freely and just like move around without being stressed, like, oh, I need to be like this and I need to be like that, because it's not ballet, it's not like striving for that perfectionism. And also having other hobbies outside dance as well, like completely outside. For example, I like reading a lot, and I feel like that helps me a lot from escaping like that certain world, because I also can bring my book into rehearsal or class, and if I need to escape for a little bit, I just grab my book and I read a little. And also, for example, meditating helps me a lot in working on my mentality outside of class.
Sure.
And having another type of workout you can pick out. Like if you want to work out, and we usually go like, okay, so I want to work out, I'm going to take a dance class. But we have to have something that's outside of that. And for me, I liked running a lot, and I haven't been able to do it recently because of my sprained ankle. But I remember I used to run a lot and also train just like normally, not like ballet related, and doing workouts like more for, okay, I want to feel good, I want to like wake up and I do workouts more towards that it's completely outside ballet.
Sounds like you had a bit of an environment switch in your recent years. Can you talk to us about, was it scary to change your environment, or do you feel like you needed to take steps in another direction in order to progress your dancing?
I remember when I first switched, like from school to a professional company, it was a really hard change on me. And because I remember, well, school, it's like they keep you in this little bubble and they guard you. They're like, okay, you're going to be fine. And they're telling you always like, okay, you have to do this and then you have to do that. And you always know what you're doing because teachers are telling you what to do. And then you go into a professional company and they're just like, you have to know what to do. And I remember that first semester in the ballet company, I was lost. I admit that. But because I didn't know what was proper, I didn't know if, for example, rehearsing in the back was okay with the other dancers, or if I was gonna be like just taking up space, or I didn't know if I should stay in all of the rehearsals because none of the teachers told us like, okay, you have to stay. They just what feels better for you, that's what you have to do. So I remember my first few months in the company, I did struggle, but little by little I started learning what was good and what was like proper for me to do, and that I could also work outside. Like for example, if they were rehearsing something I knew I wasn't gonna be in, I had to work on myself. I went into another classroom and I rehearsed for myself. I did other workouts. I had to have goals outside that company, because most of the times our goals are like, okay, so I want to dance in this production, but maybe you don't get that opportunity, and that's something you have to learn with, like to live with. And so you have to have other goals to keep you motivated. For example, like audition season, you have to have that as a motivation, because injuries come and they're going to stop you from being in productions or rehearsals. So we have to have other like motivation factors that can help you move forward if something doesn't go the way that it's planned.
Yeah. So a couple things that I think are really important for dancers here is that things aren't always going to go the way as planned. And there are going to be things, obstacles that come up that either prevent you from dancing or make it challenging. Maybe you don't get a role, you don't get cast in a production that you want. And having other motivators, whether they're dance related or not dance related, those other hobbies are all going to be helpful as a dancer.
Right now, the semester I want to work on like my technique and more focusing on my dancing so I can be better for another company. And I am also looking towards audition season, and like I want to look more into what other type of dances I can do outside of ballet. For example, contemporary. I remember when I was in school, I used to love taking a contemporary class, and when I went into the company, there wasn't any contemporary. So I feel like my body and me as well misses moving freely like that. So I want to take up contemporary again and just focus more on dancing for myself and getting better for myself throughout this semester, strengthening my mentality and mental state and learning to balance everything, and listening to my body as well. Because I remember this past semester, I stopped listening to my body, and obviously that had consequences, which was my injury. I sprained my ankle, and that also was a factor as to why I left the company.
Yeah,
because of everything that happened. And so I want to focus more on dancing for myself this semester as I audition for other companies outside Mexico.
A transition point, you take time to focus on your technique, to focus on getting better, both listening to your body and taking this time itself is a major opportunity for you to get back to a intuitive place with your body, but also a proactive place, understanding nourishment in the form of both food, but also in the form of rest, and what our body will just need in order to support us physically and mentally.
I like, for example, also I need an environment change. So I feel like the environment you're in affects your dancing a lot. So that's another factor as to why I left. And I feel like also the way they handled everything.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I remember they were like strict with food, but not as much. It was more like in a indirect way, or like not putting you in productions or something like that. So that's also,
I think
like,
that's important. That's important. Just reevaluating your environment when it's feasible. Stepping away is something that's incredibly important. Thank you for, just being a nice example of that.
it's gonna be hard,
Yeah.
and it's something you have to like accept before doing it, because, well, nothing's easy in this life, and who would want an easy life, to be completely honest. But it's going to be a journey, and
Yeah.
it's something that is going to strengthen you like in the long term. So I feel like everyone has to listen to their body and what they're telling them. And if your body's telling you you have to take some time to focus on your dancing for yourself, then just take it, and you're gonna come out stronger. Like, only good things are gonna come out of that. I would define being a healthy dancer as being a balanced dancer.
Mhm.
I feel like you have to learn how to manage every factor of being a dancer. You have to manage the physical factor, the mental factor, the emotional factor. So you have to learn how, for example, how to strengthen your mentality as well as your emotional like strength, but also be aware of how your physical state is. And for example, if your body is telling you you have to take a break, and your mind is telling you no, you can keep pushing, it's, you have to learn how to balance that, and how to learn which is better and which is like you have to learn how to keep that balance throughout life, because you cannot have your physical health without being mentally healthy, or and food goes along with that. So food, I feel like it affects both your physical and both your mental state. So you have to learn how to nourish both parts. You have to learn how to nourish your body and how to nourish your mind.
Yeah.
If your mind is telling you take a break from being so strict on yourself, you have to learn to accept that and live just listening to your body and what it's telling you, and learn how to balance.
Provided us with such wonderful insight today.
Thank you so much for having me and giving me this platform to share my insights and point of view in dance.
Of course. We'll be in touch. I'll talk to you soon.